Good evening, everyone. I'm Chief Meteorologist Jordan Frazier. We're tracking a whole lot of severe weather for later tonight. This evening, we still already have a couple of those storms. Getting a look over downtown Midland, looks rather hazy out there. That's because we had some storms come through nearby and on the north end of town, and it kicked up a whole lot of dust. And that storm is now heading right for Big Spring, right on top of Stanton right about now. But let's take a look at those current conditions, because things have been constantly changing a lot. We got sunny skies at 75. What do you mean there's storms nearby? I got very low pressure, 1,000 millibars. Normal pressure is about 1,012. This is kind of like similar to like a strong tropical storm type of pressure. So yeah, we have that kind of perfect setup. We also have winds coming in from the east. What's out to our east? The Gulf. That's bringing in plenty of moisture into the area as well. So we're at 75. We have that higher humidity levels as well. And it's not just humidity too we're talking about. We're really talking about that dew point. Latest on the dew points. You can tell me where that dry line is just based off this picture. Yeah, I'm actually going to go ahead just for kicks and giggles. There's that dry line. You can really see where all the moisture on the eastern half of our DMA is really lingering. We got those very high dew points close to about that 60-degree mark. So any storms that form are going to form this way and then move out in this direction. Now, most of the models and activity is kind of concentrating everything right along this line, kind of like Pecos and north. But there could be some isolated activity right along here, maybe Fort Stockton, maybe Ozona. I'm not looking at a whole lot of stuff really trying to form over that area, but we're going to be keeping our eye on it in the meantime. Basically, the more moisture is in the atmosphere, the more fuel that these storms have to form and stay very strong. So that's kind of our setup. That's why everything is very isolated. We're not getting like a big squall line associated with it. A lot of these dry line storms, it's kind of what we were dealing with when we had about 8 days of constant severe coverage. It was that dry line. Well, it's back. This time, we're going to see some even stronger stuff. New with the tornado watch, so much of the area was not covered. It did not originally include areas like Pecos. It did not include areas like Fort Stockton and Sanderson. That is new. That is because of that, where that dry line is associated, that's where we're going to be seeing a lot of these storms. And well, if I were to just draw back that dry line, it's right about there. So we're seeing a lot of activity starting to pop off, mainly around Midland-Odessa up to Hobbs, Lamesa, Big Spring. That's where the activity is now. This will be our new area of focus, Pecos, Fort Stockton, and Sanderson. Now, a lot of the model data was not supporting that to begin with, but let's make sure it's the same tornado watch to see, hey, when is this gonna go? How long is that gonna expire for? Basically, it's including Fort Stockton, Imperial, Ira, and Pecos tornado watch until 9 o'clock Central Daylight Time. About 19,000 people are in that one versus the old one, which included Carlsbad, Hobbs, Midland, Odessa. That is until 9 o'clock tonight. About 356,000 people in that watch box. So make sure if you're in these areas to have multiple ways to receive those weather alerts just in case anything begins to really pop off. But let's go right into the radar. Activity is already starting up a bit with two main areas I'm focused on. There are two storms in particular. Let's zoom in on the first one. That's going to be the one on heading for Big Spring, right on top of Stanton right now. I'm going to go ahead and pause it so you can really get a good look. I want to show you that purple. That purple is going to be very, very heavy rainfall. And that blue, that kind of like sky blue you're seeing, that's the hail core. That's where we're seeing the heaviest amount of hail associated within that storm. In terms of local impacts, latest reading from the National Weather Service, golf ball size hail, 60-mile-an-hour wind gusts, and this is actually confirmed by public sources. So people like you out in the public reporting this stuff to the National Weather Service saying, hey, we are looking at about golf ball sized hail. That's going to be about 1.75 inches. So decent size. It could certainly damage your car. It could also damage you too. You make sure maybe do the treadmill indoors rather than the afternoon jog tonight, just because of that situation. It's trying to make a hook echo. No, I'm not looking at any kind of tornadic activity. I've been seeing some very broad scale rotation since this thing was over top of Odessa, but it's very broad. There's a number of storm chasers out checking out these storms and watching them very closely. We're going to be keeping our eyes on them. But where is this thing moving? It's moving east at about 20 miles an hour. That's not really fast. So you're going to see some localized flash flooding as an impact, and well, you can actually see just outside of the severe warned storm. What's this? That's going to be a dust storm warning. I had to zoom in a little bit more, but it's kicking up a lot of dust too. Now, when a storm kicks up a lot of dust, it needs moisture to survive. Any kind of dust or sand, anything dry, ends up killing the storm. So inadvertently, the storm is actually trying to kill itself, where you're looking at it pick up a whole lot of dust and then it sucks it back into the storm and it weakens it. Now that's kind of what we want to see. We don't want to see really strong storms. We don't want to see big hail. We don't want to see strong winds, but you get the combination of everything here. We got some heavy rain, we got lightning, we got hail, we got strong winds, and now we have blowing dust. This is why I say I want you guys to make sure that you are staying indoors and staying safe while these storms are over top of you. So if you're in Stanton, make sure you guys are taking cover. But let's put a track on this. Let's see exactly where this thing is moving, because it's only moving at 20 miles an hour. So if it continues on its current path, I'm going to start the track right at the hailstorm. When's it going to be pushing its way all the way out? So it's going to hit Big Spring around 7:40. So it's still about 30 minutes. Yeah. Wow. That's not a whole lot. And we're also going to see it hit closer to Coahoma right around 8:22. And that's going to be about it. It's not making a whole lot of progress. Now, of course, the National Weather Service will update these storms every about 10 to maybe 30 minutes on the high end, but they're keeping our eye out. We got people on the ground. We're watching this entire storm, but let's also check out, just for fun, that velocity too. See if there's any kind of rotation. I'm not seeing it. I'm really just seeing a whole lot of green, which means, hey, the storm itself is kind of moving in the direction, or the winds are moving toward the radar, right? Even where that hook is, still nothing super positive. So that's actually going to be one of the better case scenarios, just not looking at very strong rotation. Maybe about right here, that's where we could see maybe something, but it's so small, it's so localized, and there's a lot of hail with this storm too. The more hail within a storm, the lower tornado potential. So, which would you prefer, the tornado or the hail? I mean, both cause a lot of damage, so it's a rhetorical question. You guys don't need to answer that. Nonetheless, moving on over to the next storm. That's going to be the one just to the south of Seminole. I'm going to go ahead and pause that. We're looking at, again, another big lightning maker with a large hail core. Latest reading from the National Weather Service within this storm is about quarter-sized hail, so about 1 inch in diameter. That's basically the minimum status for the storm itself to go severe, and we're looking at about 60-mile-an-hour winds, and the sources are from people like you out in the public reporting this to the National Weather Service. So this is not just, hey, I see it on the radar. No, this is, hey, there is some hail falling on the ground. Here's some video of my yard. And we encourage you to go out, take pictures, and take videos. I would just personally suggest doing it after the storm has passed, before that hail melts. Once it's clear, walk outside, go ahead and take some pictures, send them to us. We'd love to do a compilation of them later tonight. But this isn't all of the storms. I'm going to go ahead and zoom back out. We're still looking at a lot of storms just around Eunice, right around Hobbs. Another small little hail core out here in the very rural parts in between, right around, what highway is that? Highway 128. It's really hard to see. The screen's pretty small on here. North of Hobbs, right around Lovington and in between Lovington and Denver City, another small hail core as well. Not big enough that it's gone severe, but then we go a little bit farther out north of Carlsbad near Loco Hills, where it's looking at this storm until 7:15 Mountain Time, so another severe warned storm associated with that. Whew, getting pretty busy. Farther down to the south, here's a little bit more of that new activity trying to ramp up around Pecos, Fort Stockton. It's not doing much. It's really not. So we're keeping our eye on it just in case. A few storm chasers thought, hey, Fort Stockton, you guys are pretty typical to see a lot of severe weather. So I'm going to drive down there, but we're not seeing a lot of action. We'll let you know in case any of that changes, but I'm not seeing anything too significant. All right, enough of the radar. Here's that severe risk. And I'm going to break it down for you because I show you guys the severe risk a lot. And it basically says, what is the likelihood I'm going to see severe storms? The bigger the number, the more storms there's going to be, and the more widespread too. They're not going to be isolated to scattered. And this time, level 3 means numerous. Yeah, so we're going to see, that's about the highest risk we usually get out here. The level 4 and 5, moderate and high risks, those are going to be for very storm-prone tornado alley areas like Kansas, like Oklahoma. We don't see that out here. We get that level 3 risk, and that's going to be about it. But let's break it down. Individual risks here. Tornado risk, anything in that brown is going to be that 5% chance of a tornado. That seems very low. Yeah, it is. But 5% is still not 0%. Think about last year when we had the Kentucky Derby. We had about 3 tornadoes and we were under that 5% risk. Remember when we had that mile-wide tornado hit the Midland airport, and then that same another tornado went and hit Sanderson on the same day? We were also under just a 5% risk. So you still get some pretty strong storms. You still get some active tornadoes, even with a very minor risk here. But that's just the tornado risk. What about the winds? We get a lot of winds out here. We get a lot of these dust storms. We're already seeing that. A great example is last night. Last night I had a storm pop up just north of Pecos, kind of in Wink and even Kermit, that then moved all the way out to Odessa, and we got about 80-mile-an-hour wind gusts with that. So you see 15%, okay, that's a decent amount, so we can see some pretty strong winds. We're already getting a dust storm warning in Stanton heading toward Big Spring. So what's going on here? Well, 15%, but then what are the black dashes? The black dashes are representative of what we call significantly severe risk. Means that we're looking at not just, hey, there's going to be some strong winds, but there's going to be some really strong winds. And what this represents is, hey, we're going to see wind gusts over 70 miles an hour possible within this. The actual translation is 65 knots, about 75 miles an hour. But nonetheless, hey, just expect very strong wind gusts if you're in that area. Then here comes the real bummer. Hate to say this, the hail risk for today, 30%. And we have that significantly severe hash on it as well, the black lines. That means we're looking at 30% chance that these storms are going to have some at least an inch in diameter hail, if not bigger. But then the black dashes represent the significantly severe, meaning about 2-inch diameter hail. You know what that is? It's about a tennis ball. Doesn't seem that big, but if this is ice, yeah, you don't want this flying around. So keep that in mind. Try, if you haven't already, make sure you're bringing stuff in, as long as you're not under an active thunderstorm warning. Please, please. Bring your stuff in, any kind of lawn chairs, trampolines. I don't want to see a lot of airborne trampolines. It's funny until someone gets hurt, and I don't want that. I want you guys to stay safe out there. Overnight tonight, I have gone ahead and I did what you guys probably don't like. I put a high chance for rain tonight, 60% chance. It's because most of the activity is expected during those overnight hours. It all kind of depends on what's going on right now. The more storms we see currently, the less active and less unstable that atmosphere is going to be later on. Atmosphere, when it's unstable, creates storms. The storms stabilize the atmosphere, and then it makes it so that it's harder for storms later on to form unless we get a new weather system. This is going to be the same weather system, but if we get more storms now, we're going to see less during the night. Personally, I prefer to see more storms now just because we can see the storms in the daylight. You can't see them at night, and that's what makes those nocturnal storms quite dangerous. But let's break it down for you on the future track. I'm going to go slowly here because it's showing, let me move it to right now. So it's saying right now we should see some storms possibly moving toward Big Spring and out of the area, and around Andrews and out of the area. Actually, that's not too far off. It's just not, it's a little bit more conservative in terms of what the radar is showing. As this stuff moves out, we're going to see a little bit more storm activity popping up right around Hobbs around 10 o'clock. Then notice it continues to stretch down a little bit toward Winkler County. Moves even further down until about, looks like the western edge of Ector County. And even just to the north of Fort Stockton. That's right along where that dry line is. That thing starts to push its way into Odessa and Midland around 1 to 2 to even 3 a.m. But it looks very, very weak, kind of avoids Big Spring, and then all of this is gone by around 6 to 7 a.m. Okay, so what happened here? Basically, the model is telling me, hey, we're going to see some storms later tonight, and then afterwards, we're not going to see as much into the overnight hours and into early tomorrow morning. All right, I like that. But what about the more aggressive model? Well, this one is actually saying, hey, you're not going to see as much activity tonight or like this afternoon, this evening, but you are going to see a little bit more later on. So 7 o'clock still has nothing over Big Spring or Snyder, which is not really representative of what we're seeing now, but it does show the stuff over Hobbs. It does show the stuff around Andrews and Seminole. Here we go, moving along. It's showing quite a few cells popping up right around Del Rio, Odessa, Andrews, and Seminole, and then it gets the squall line going right around Hobbs, right around Pecos, and then really forms together around midnight or so, right on top of Ector County, Midland County, up to Andrews and even Gaines County. Yeah, and then around 1 to 2 a.m., this thing is moving pretty quick all the way out toward Big Spring. So we're keeping our eye on that one. And then by around 4 a.m., a lot of this moves out of the bigger cities, still hanging on to Big Spring and Snyder. And then by 8 a.m., it is in the clear. So we basically have two different setups. One, storms form right now. We don't get as much during the overnight. Number two, storms don't form a lot right now. We get a lot during the overnight. Right now, I'm kind of going on the first one, where we're going to see some storms now and a little bit less at night. That's going to be the best case scenario in case we do see anything. What about tomorrow, though? Well, don't worry. That severe risk, it's going to be out in central Texas, out toward Abilene, San Angelo. This stuff is not going to bother us anymore. The rain chances that I do have are going to be very, very small. So we're going to be keeping our eye on that. Latest from the National Weather Service, still looking about golf ball sized hail with a new storm actually. So let me actually jump back to the radar real quick. I believe this might be the one near Seminole if I'm not